How old are you in 8th grade? That's how old I was. And we lived out on Lake Catherine. It was about 3/4 mile down Grand Staff Trails. Me and my mom and my dad. And every day we drove by this horse farm right there across from. Oh, there's a store out there on Highway 290. It used to be Dale and Cecile's, and I think it was Brownies or something. But there's a horse farm on either side of it, and we drive by it every day. And one day, my dad struck up a conversation with the ranch hand there, and his name was HL Nash. And HL was a cowboy. And I didn't know it because everybody in my life drank, and they all killed shit, and they all worked. But HL was an alcoholic. Right? And you might come around the shed row. Back in them days, they didn't have bibs for Carhartts. They just had one pieces. And HL would have that thing shoved down. He'd be reaching back there on his hind end, poking them hemorrhoids back in him. I swear to God. Boy, what are you doing? Have that beer in his hand. But HL, he was a cowboy from Texas. And he was partnered with Jim Bays, who owns Catamede, and who shot horses for the Firestone and the Sheik of Dubai. And all these people I got to know through HL, Phil Eckrosh and Doc Jolly, and a number of things, number of people. But HL took his coon hunting one night, and that's where HL lost his thumb. See, HL had a pit bulldog, and they'd been drinking a little bit, and he sucked that dog in that coon, and then he had another dog, a young dog, and he went down there pulling on that jaws of that bulldog, and that coon slapped that bulldog, and that bulldog went back to take another bite. And when he did, he took HL's thumb off. And we was in the middle of that creek, and that time, I'll never forget it. My dad, he said, HL said, huh? And I said, what's the matter, HL? He said, that bitch bit my thumb off. I said, what? And when he lifted his thumb up like that, every time his heart beat, and so they went over there, and there's a little piece of bone sticking out of his thumb. And back in the old sawbones, McConkey. Reach over there with a pair of, when you shot horses, all them flat-headed shears and pull them shoes off. He's reached over one of them, grabbed it, pulled out of the joint. Right? Needless to say, we got that dog, right? That become my bulldog. And she was a female, and she, by God, if you told her to get it, she understood that. She was a great dog. And then HL and Jim had a falling out, and HL went to Flagstaff, Arizona on a cattle farm, 40 square miles. They ran from Flagstaff all the way to Camp Verde. And he invited me out, and he wanted his dogs back one summer. So we took off, and we met a cattle truck that was running out of Pine Bluff. They were taking these cows that were processed. They'd been, they'd knock the horns down, and they'd castrate them sometimes. And they'd ship them a 24-hour drive all the way up from Pine Bluff to Flagstaff. And we'd put them on that grass up there, and you didn't have to feed them grain, right? They grow on it. Long story short. And so I put them dogs on that cattle truck, that coon dog he gave me to, Thumb, that was his name, imagine that, and Maggie the bulldog. And they took off, and I flew out to Phoenix, and HL picked me up. And we'd been out there a week, maybe. And the problem was the cattle, the steers coming in, which ranged in between 450 and 750, 800 pounds, right? We're getting them beefed up for the slaughterhouse. We just turn them loose, right? We're coming in, and they'd be hollow horned. The horn been cut too quick. They'd be hollowed. You can see the brain, right? Or they leave a nut hanging out of them where they didn't castrate them all the way. And the blowflies there in Flagstaff it was something like it was like a horror movie. And what would happen, because everybody knows a maggot won't eat, real flesh. It'll eat a brain and a heartbeat. And them blowflies will blow, and them horns, and I don't know, we had 50 head of cattle, steers, that were getting their brains ate up while they were alive by maggots. We didn't know what to do. and on the other end too. So I remember we'd rope a couple cattle and we'd just go ahead and, finish the castration off. It was a piss poor job, okay? And this is back, I was 13, 14. Hell, this is before the 90s. This is the end of the 80s. And so they had a big turnout pen, I don't know, probably 3/4 acre. And around it was a square, and around the square was a chute, a driving lane. And you drive these, you get them in that pen, and then you push the gate open, and you drive them around the edge of it, like the three sides of a square. And every so often there'd be a gate. And he had me have that, he had that bulldog. He said, get that bulldog, let's drive these cows up here, steers up here. I said, okay. And I got up there, and Maggie went to work, boy, nipping and doing and pushing them cattle. And we cleared one gate, cleared another 100 yards. It's about 300 yards, right? And he got up in there in the last bend, right, before it went into the squeeze chute, and there was one bull that was notorious crazy, and he was the biggest one. Big old steer. They weren't bulls, they were steers. They had nuts cut. And the flies were getting the better part of him. And he turned around on me, and I had Maggie on a leash, right? I think I was 14. And when he turned, he aimed to take my life. Now, this is HL Nash that had some upbringing with Tough Eaterman, that had later went on to the the federales and gunshots, and hell, all kinds of crazy shit. And every big name in horse racing you ever seen, he knew. Hell, he even hot walked out of Sheba, and Demons Be Gone, and all of them, right? For Jim Bays and all of them. But when that steer turned, right, it turned, and it looked me head on, and it come on. Old Maggie, bam, hit it right on the nose, that bulldog. And I got out of the way, right? And that driving chute, I don't know, there may be 6, 8 foot wide, maybe 6 foot wide, You're throttling them, you're funneling them into something small, right? You're wanting to push them in there so you can get that gate on them and you can drive them up in that squeeze chute and you can doctor on them, right? And the fight was on, right? And they went down the straight end, and that steer threw that dog in the fence post and tried to throw it over the fence and stomped on it and kicked on it, ran it up in the deal. Down the other 100 yards, this went on to the point that HL told me, he said, look, go get that pistol. We're going to shoot this dog. And I was crying. I love that dog, And he did too. Right. I went and got the pistol. And I come out there, and they had made it out into the main area, in the turnout pen, right? And they were both tired. And Maggie was all beat up. But she still had a hold of that steer's nose. That steer was probably 700 pounds, right? And she weighed maybe 70, 60. And they were catching their breath. And I was about to hand HL the pistol. And that dog did one of these. And when it did, it flipped that whole steer on its back. The whole damn thing, I swear to God. And she was laying on her side, and the steer was on its side, and then she let go of that sumbitch. It come trotted off. Broken bones. There ain't no telling all broken ribs. And she come trotting, It'd be about 3 days later, we found that steer, bloated up and dead. She killed it dead in her doornail. He couldn't breathe no more. All right. And from that point of view, if my mama wasn't enough, because my mama was a small woman, and I've seen her cut people up with can openers and bite people's ears off, throw people's in fire, whoop 6, love 3 back to death. Seen her have the healing hands in people's lives, and I've seen her knock some bruises on some people too. If that wasn't a great enough example, when I seen that bulldog that day, I realized that size ain't shit. It's the size of the fight in the dog that matters. Hallelujah. And if you're fighting something, you feel like you're up against some obstacle and it's just a little bit bigger than what you might think you are, bitch, dig deep, get in your heart, right? I've had to tell myself that a few times. That it's just an illusion because you got a God that loves you, family that's rooting for you, and then you got something inside you. You know, like when they put the all spark in the Transformers, you got an all spark, right? Just like that bulldog that day. And you might just be one quick fucking move from flipping the whole world on its side and you walking away wagging your tail. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I left, and I left the dogs, and I got a phone call. He'd found them dead. Yeah. They got loose. Hell, when they got loose on us, we had to go get them at the dog pound, right, on Flagstaff. They got loose again and went running, because that's how HL was. Let them run. And Maggie was found bloated up in the woods. She had found something smaller than her that had a little more fight. She took off on a porcupine. She had all them quails down there. And that porcupine gave the same lesson that she gave to that steer that one day. You got to remember, size ain't shit. It's the size of the fight in the heart of the dog that matters. Fluid English.